Yo, what's going on, guys? And today we are obviously driving back from the G League Showcase, going to visit my folks for the holidays. And I'm seeing a report from Jovan Vuha and Darnell Mayberry out of The Athletic discussing the fact that the Lakers would be interested in a D'Angelo Russell-centric Zach LaVine trade. And what does that specifically mean, you guys wonder? Because, yes, I think that's a very convoluted way of saying that if the numbers were right, they would be interested in a trade that doesn't gut them defensively, in my opinion. I want to hear your thoughts before we start today's video. Link is in the description about this trade. So the overview is that one of the tricky parts of a Zach LaVine trade is his $40.1 million salary. That's got to be matched. So for the Lakers, that would have to start with D'Angelo Russell's $17.3 million contract. And he and LaVine have a very similar skill set. Russell's probably a better passer. They're probably equal defenders. LaVine's probably the better, more consistent scorer and better shooter. Now, the deal would also likely involve Rui Hachimura, who makes $15.7. That basically brings the deal to $33 million. They'll just be $7 million short. And the Bulls allegedly covet Austin Reeves, and it is said very unlikely that they would trade Reeves. So if Hachimura is involved in the deal, it would have to wait. The earliest this would have to occur is January 15th to be completed. And both players were signed in a bird right deal and got big enough raises over the prior salaries that the Lakers are unable to trade them until January 15th. So for Russell, he already waived his ability to block a trade as part of re-signing with the Lakers this past offseason. So it's been expected since Russell re-signed with the Lakers that they would use him to make a significant upgrade if there was a possibility. Now, continuing looking at just the scope of this, we know that they've been linked, and Zach LaVine is conveniently out with an inflamed right foot until around mid-January. And the Lakers have interest in acquiring Zach LaVine or DeMar DeRozan and Alex Caruso. Basically, they either would want to trade for Zach LaVine straight up or a package of Alex Caruso and DeMar DeRozan. I personally think it is more likely that they trade for DeMar DeRozan and Alex Caruso than Mr. Zach LaVine, because the Zach LaVine deal would require them to give up 3 players. Now, if they were to trade for Alex Caruso and DeMar DeRozan, it would be easier for them to get those players without giving up players who are vital to the rotation. So right now, from the Bulls side, the biggest hurdle is the asking price for LaVine and as well as DeRozan and Caruso. Supposedly, Caruso is worth 2 first-round picks, and DeMar DeRozan has the least amount of trade value out of the 3. And if they do trade for DeMar DeRozan, his agent has to basically tell the Lakers that it's a verbal agreement that he will re-sign. So LaVine is probably going to be cheaper in terms of draft assets that they would need to give up to get him, but Caruso and DeRozan, I personally think are the better fit. I think in terms I think they just give them more better players to win now. And the thing is DeMar and Caruso are more vital and integral to the Bulls' turnaround than LaVine is. LaVine isn't playing, and they're playing good without him, and Kobe White's balling. So the Bulls are more motivated to move LaVine than DeMar DeRozan and Caruso. They want to keep Caruso. They basically have him untouchable unless an offer they can't refuse comes across the table. And DeMar says he wants to stay in Chicago, and Chicago values him, but contract extension talks have been put on pause. So the problem with Chicago is that they've quickly developed a reputation for overvaluing their own trade discussions. So that could be the biggest hurdle, as the 3 past failed trades or like trade deadlines that they could have sold somebody, they weren't able to because teams pulled out as they felt like the Bulls were overvaluing their own guys. So that is something that could be a doozy for them. Now, on the Lakers fronts, they're just going to remain patient, stay pat. And from Jovan Bua's understanding is that the Lakers prefer a DeMar DeRozan with Caruso or just Caruso by himself, given their contracts. Now, the Lakers have preferred year-to-year flexibility over enduring the long-term salaries of players that they don't feel like are like on the same level as LeBron and Davis, as they've done that since their championship run in 2020. They basically don't want to get themselves handicapped like the Cavs did with all the contracts they re-signed after they won the title. So Caruso makes 9.5 this year, 9.9 next year. And DeRozan's on an expiring 28, both are team friendlies, and Caruso's one of the best defensive players in the league. Now, LaVine is with Clutch Sports, okay? And we all know Rich Paul, LeBron's childhood friend, runs Clutch Sports. So for them, currently they have 4 players Cam Reddish, Davis, Jared Vanderbilt, and James, who are all with Clutch Sports. So for them, James has been a fan of LaVine, but we also have to note that, he has also been publicly a fan of DeRozan. For LaVine, though, D'Angelo Russell, like we said, is a better fit, and they're saying potentially either Max Christie or Jalen Hood-Schifino and a pick would have to be involved, and we're talking a first-round pick. Now, I think that's quite rich for Zach LaVine, especially his contract. And the whole thing is that Los Angeles doesn't even interest in trading Reeves for LaVine. Like, there's nothing there. Even for them, they're saying that offer, though, could be what the Bulls would want for Mr. DeRozan and Caruso. Adjusting the players involved in the matching salary, the Lakers only have 1 movable first-round pick, and I think they're willing to move that 1 first-round pick for both DeRozan and Caruso instead of just one of Mr. Zach LaVine. So the lack of interest league-wide for LaVine, maybe they could get him for cheap, but I just think it's difficult. So for me, what I think is going to happen, realistically, guys, what I think will happen is probably Jalen Hood-Schifino, Rui Hachimura, D'Angelo Russell, and the only first-round pick they have left traded. And maybe they trade also, let's say, Max Christie. And let's say Max Christie, Rui Hachimura, D'Angelo Russell go to the Bulls, and the Lakers send Jalen Hood-Schifino to a different team to get a first-round pick in this year's draft because it's a really weak draft class. Maybe they send Jalen Hood-Schifino to, the Thunder, and they get, a contract that the Thunder don't want, or a player, on an expiring deal with a projected late first in this year's draft. So then the Lakers are able to maybe also a protected pick or a pick swap with a different team, and down the road, something of like that for Jalen Hood-Schifino, so they can still recuperate some draft asset and maybe get a discarded player from a team like the Thunder or somebody else that has a stockpile of picks. I think that's actually somewhat realistic. Let me hear you guys' thoughts though.